Welcome back to Let's Get Haunted
with your hosts,
Nat
and Aly. Welcome back, Haunties, to episode 218 of Let's Get Haunted. We are your hosts, Aly and Nat, your hosts of Let's Get Haunted, the only podcast about shit that may or may not have even happened in the first place. Nat, do you want to explain how our show works to anyone out there who might be listening for the very first time?
Yep. Well, first of all, welcome. The way our show works is that each week we tell a haunted story. It is a research story. It's not something that we made up. It's probably true is the approach that we take to everything on the podcast. So if you're listening to an episode on this podcast, we are going to treat that story as if it happened and report on it like investigative journalists. Now, every week we switch. So the odd numbered weeks are weeks that Aly researches the stories, and the even numbered episodes are weeks that I research and tell the story. So this week I am going to tell a story that I researched. There is a huge difference between the delivery, the feel, the vibe of even an odd numbered episode. So if you hear this story and you're like, you know what? Kind of hated that. Stick around, wait till next week and see if you change your mind. And then if you hate us that time, then you can be like, okay, I did my due diligence here. You can be like Aly, who is terrified of flying and decided to put herself through skydiving to make sure that she was terrified of flying. And it wasn't just that she was scared of heights. And she proved to herself that, nope, she was just afraid of the airplane. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy. You know, trust but verify. If you think something is bad, you can trust that it's bad, but verify, right? Like just listen to another and another and another and another until you inevitably have Stockholm syndrome. You're stuck with us. You're like, God, I hate them, but I can't stop listening. That's the kind of listener that we want to have in our fandom. And I would go ahead and say that's probably 20% of our listeners started off not liking us, and then we grew on them. So I like to say we're an acquired taste. Mm-hmm. You know, the very first time you had a glass of wine, you probably were like, oh, this isn't shit, because it was probably communion wine or something super cheap. Mm-hmm. And then you got to stick around and try and sample, and then eventually you end up liking it. And I like to think that's how we are. And as Nat said, even numbers are her episodes. Odd numbers are my episodes. So there's something for everyone. If you don't like my episodes, you'll probably like hers. If you don't like her episodes, you might like mine. And that is really great, I think. Let's pat ourselves on the back.
My name is Pat Back.
That we have all sorts of hauntings here for you all, no matter what week it is. I was writing down little ideas of things I could talk about. The only things that I could think of are, I went to my very first Dodger game of the season, which was a big deal. I love the Dodgers. I go every season, and this was my very first game I went to. And other than that, the only thing I have written down is that I bought a houseplant. So, woohoo.
Oh, at first I thought you were going to say I bought a house, and then I was like, oh, and then it was plant, and then I was like, oh, that's still good. And it's like...
I know, for everybody who like is driving and they lose service, now they think that I bought a house, but it was actually just a house plant.
Congrats on the new house, Aly. I did have a kind of chaotic thought when you were talking about how listening to LGH is kind of like the first time you try wine. You're like, I don't get it. This fucking sucks. Why are people drinking this? Right? I feel like that is actually a perfect analogy for Let's Get Haunted, because in small doses, it absolutely sucks, right? Like, we're annoying. Our voices are annoying. You're not going to learn that much about the content. You're like, what were they just yapping about, right? But if you listen to a whole episode, if you listen to like a week straight of Let's Get Haunted, I promise you, you will feel fucked up by the end of the week. Like, you will be like, my brain is not the same brain that I started out with. Like, it is a drug, okay? There is it should be studied. The effects of this podcast on your brain should be studied. You will be quoting jokes that are not funny. You are certain to, yeah, that's pretty much it. You will be quoting jokes that are not funny, and you will be dying laughing at them. Like, oh wow, I found this secret thing that's just for me that I can't tell anyone else about because they're not going to get it. And that's like being an alcoholic. So welcome to our podcast.
Welcome to Haunties Anonymous. We're here to listen to your haunted tales every 5 episodes. If you are new, we do a listener stories episodes. You can always email us your haunted personal tales of a time you saw a ghost, a UFO, a cryptid, etc. That is LetsGetHauntedPod@gmail.com. We also have a Patreon where we post extra content, including extended personal hauntings that Nat and I are experiencing during the week. We also have mini-sodes where we'll cover either together or solo a different haunted topic or things that are in the news. We also have live streams. I have a live stream coming up tonight for those of you on tier 2. I play Nancy Drew. Sometimes we play spooky games like Enter the Back Rooms. And yeah, it's just a really good time. Nat posts vlogs on there as well. And then the public episodes are really just a smorgasbord, however you say it, our charcuterie board of different samplings of things that at first you may be like, wow, this is clearly fake and stupid. But if you keep listening and you have a whimsical mind, you might just become addicted.
Girl, once again, I don't know what I'm talking about this episode. I have like 4 sources and 3 of them are trust me, bro. I don't know what this is, but I feel like it's going to bring up a lot of thoughts. And so personal hauntings are probably going to be just like interspersed throughout this episode.
In that case, I'm ready. I'm ready to be absolutely blown out of the water. I'm ready to buckle the fuck up. Survive a haunted plane crash this episode. Let's do it.
Let me first see who gave me this recommendation for this episode, because every episode this season, I am taking a listener request, which means somebody told me what they wanted this episode to be about. In this case, today is from Evo Shandor 420 on Reddit.
Good job, Eva. Shandor, 420, blaze it. We're ready. We're ready to see what Eva recommended. And if you don't like it, she gets the blame. She, he, or they gets the blame.
Aly, tell me what you know about Canada. Offensive, new takes only.
Wow, Canada. Okay, now this is very interesting because I'm actually wearing a sweatshirt that I got in Canada at Banff National Park today at Bear Street Outfitters. I walked in there because I saw that they had a nice looking sweatshirt that had a bear riding a bicycle. And I was like, oh my God, so cute. I want this. And so I walk in and I'm looking at all these sweatshirts and the guy comes up to me and he goes, oh yeah, what kind of bike do you have? And I was like, I don't. And he was like, oh, you know, this is a bike shop, right? And I was like, no, I didn't know that, but I would like to purchase this sweatshirt. So what do I think of Canada? I think, you know, everybody there is supposed to be really nice. They say a lot. We have known a few people from Canada over our lifetimes, some better than others. And yeah, I know that the Canadians that we've met in the US are mostly just concerned with getting their US citizenship. So I feel like they're not a great representation of the rest of Canada. I'm literally thinking of the 2 Canadians that I have met in adulthood, and that was their main goal. I don't know why. Wow. I've always thought, isn't Canada supposed to be better than us? But anyway, long story short, I know they have snow. I know they have national parks. Lots of Australians there. I was shook when I was in Canada because every single person I met was actually Australian and not Canadian.
Why?
I don't know. I think
Canada,
it's because
tell us.
Don't Australians take a year off or something? Don't they have a gap year after college before they start the real world?
I don't know.
And so they just travel?
They get like time off for everything. They get like great maternity leave. They get like a great summer break. They get like great vacations. So I would not be surprised if they just had like a leap year. between college and job. I don't know.
4 years. Yeah. Yeah. You get it off until next leap year. Yeah. That's all I know about Canada. I know that you've covered some haunted stories that take place there in the past. I'm thinking of the Falcon Lake incident. That was a great episode we did a few years ago with Elliot. Our friend Elliot joined as a guest. Yeah, that's all I know.
Okay, well, you're going to find out today. Do you know what the Northwest Territories is?
Are those the territories in Canada that are on the northwestern side?
It's kind of like that, yes. The Northwest Territories are located in one of the most remote regions of Canada. Located in the northwestern corner of Canada, this gigantic plot of land only has 45,000 people living in it. We are talking about an isolated piece of land that is almost completely uninhabited. The Northwest Territories is above the Arctic Circle, meaning that for 3 months in summer, the sunlight is almost completely continuous. In winter, darkness occupies the region for almost an entire 4 months.
Wow.
This is an extreme place with mild summers and bitter cold winters. As the popular YouTuber Mr. Ballin, who already covered this topic, noted, the country of Germany has a population of 83 million people, but the Northwest Territory is 4 times as large as Germany, but only has a population of 45,000 people living in it.
Wow.
The Northwest Territories have a strong culture of the region's Aboriginal tradition. The descendants of the Inuit inhabitants keep many of the original cultural practices of their ancestors alive. There are 8 official languages of the Northwest Territories, and 6 of those languages are Aboriginal languages, in addition to English and French. Tourists can enjoy beautiful auroral displays here, and will note that the Northwest Territories have a unique sense of identity relative to the rest of Canada. There's also no hotels, no amusements, no attractions, no restaurants. I mean, this place is literally just nature. There's no roads to even get into the park. It's not like in America, we have these big national parks. You can like take a highway right up to it, get on a shuttle and go through it like it's Disneyland. Like, no. This, you have to fly in, you have to boat in, or you have to hike in. And the hike, I have been told, is very difficult. It's also said to be one of the most beautiful places on Earth because it is so desolate. Now, here is where things get haunted. This area of Canada has a very heavy Aboriginal history and tradition. Every tribe that has ever tried to settle this area either vanishes into thin air and leaves all of their equipment and shelters behind, or flees the area and claims that they were being hunted and stalked by a mysterious evil creature that lurked within the valley. There's been talk of white demons, little people, gigantic white wolves that lurk in the dark. There also exists an ancient oral history of the First Nation people that depicts an unknown evil specifically in a 200-mile gorge. This area of the Northwest Territories is called the Second Canyon, and locals avoid going to that area at all costs, because occasionally prospectors who were mining in this area would wind up decapitated, earning the Nahanni National Park the nickname of the Valley of Headless Men. Aly,
Wow.
what do you think?
I mean, okay, I have heard of the Nahanni Valley.
You have.
And yes, I have. And I do remember looking up pictures of it. And you're right, it's super desolate. I did look up some vlogs, like travel vlogs. This was a few years ago. I was looking up some travel vlogs to see if people had gone there and filmed it. And it was a lot of hunters, mostly. Like, as you said, there's no hotels. There's no attractions. So the only people that are going to go there are going to be outdoorsmen or tourists that have some sort of grasp on how to live in nature. And I remember the one vlog I watched was this guy on a helicopter that was coming in to the valley, and I don't know what else he did there, but I know that he like got dropped off and was camping, and I'm not sure if it was just a camping trip or if there was some purpose. But yeah, it looked beautiful. It was so green, the water was so blue, and I just remember feeling like, wow, this is untouched. You know, this is one of the parts of the world that, because it's so difficult to access, we haven't quite fucked up yet, it seems. And maybe you're going to tell me that we have fucked it up and that I just don't know. But I was very impressed by whatever vlog it was that I watched.
Hey guys, it's Nat. I don't know if you know this about me, but I get car sick. At first, it just started out as a fake complaint, like, oh, I get shotgun, right? Like, I don't have to sit in the back because I get car sick. And everyone would just let me go in the front seat. But then it morphed into actual car sickness. I think the thought of just not riding shotgun makes me nauseous. Who's to say? Either way, I get nauseous. And if you get nauseous, you absolutely must get our next partner, Relief Band. Everyone look at this Relief Band and also observe my nails because they are perfect right now. So it has this little metal thing and it sort of sends like some sort of signal through there into your body that does some science and basically makes you not nauseous. Relief Band is legitimately a band you wear on your wrist to give you relief from nausea. Also, you can change the intensity depending on how you're feeling to make it stronger or weaker. It is 100% drug-free, non-drowsy, works quickly before or after symptoms start, and it has 0 side effects. So for a while, I was in my like homesteading, home birth, homeopathic era. Now I'm in my fully medicated era. I'm trying to be limitless. And guess what? Some medications don't play well with other medications. So whether you're in your homestead era and you just don't want to take medication, you can use Relief Band to prevent nausea. Or maybe you're in your fully medicated, not leaving the house without a prescription era. You can also use Relief Band because it works. Look, I've got kids, and sometimes they just take so much patience out of you that you're just like, Relief Band. If you are at your breaking point with nausea, Relief Band. If you're going to Disneyland and you don't want to do the spinny cup rides with your kids because you get nauseous, but the kids can't go without you, Relief Band. Hypothetical situation, you're super hungover, but you've got an event the next day. Relief Band. Still not sure about Relief Band? Here's a real story from one of Relief Band's customers. Michael said, quote, "The Relief Band is the first product I have tried that eliminated the nausea of motion sickness. I've tried the pills, the patch, the pressure bands. None of those products has worked as well as Relief Band." End quote. Thank you, Michael. Relief Band has sold over 1 million devices and it's backed by thousands of 4-star and above reviews, making it a trusted choice for fast-acting natural nausea relief. Slay. So if you want to cure your nausea problem fast, join the hundreds of thousands of people who are nausea-free with Relief Band. Right now, we've got an exclusive offer for Let's Get Haunted listeners. If you go to reliefband.com and use promo code HAUNTED, you'll receive 20% off plus free shipping. So head to RELIEFBAND.com and use our promo code HAUNTED for 20% off plus free shipping. And now back to your regularly scheduled haunting. Yeah, this is a beautiful, beautiful place. And if you guys want to see pictures of this place, you can check out our video that is up of this episode on our YouTube channel, Let's Get Haunted. Or you can go to our Instagram at Let's Get Haunted on Instagram and check out the photo dump from this episode. Okay, so as we said, this valley has an ancient tradition of having some sort of evil lurking in it. There has been lots of prehistoric animals who used to live in this area. Specifically, like a mammoth used to be there. And some of the older people through this oral tradition used to talk about these mammoths that would wander through the park. And some people even felt like, because their drawings from memory were so scientifically accurate that perhaps maybe they had even seen some of these mammoths. People think that because this area is so desolate, perhaps there's some prehistoric animals or some animal that never died out that still lives there and has just never been found. They also talk about bear dogs, which, look, I'm going to be honest. I didn't look up what a bear dog was because I was just assuming that it was like a half bear, half dog. But now that we're doing this live, let me make sure that it's not something, like the moon cat is not really a moon cat.
Or man, bear, pig, who's half man, half bear, half pig.
Okay, bear dog is called Amphictyonidae. Amphictyonidae. It's an
Are you Italian?
I was doing when in doubt, I do like a Borat voice because I'm like, you know what? It's fine. It's an extinct family of terrestrial carnivorians belonging to the suborder Caniformia. Yeah, so that's basically what it is. It looks kind of like a hyena slash. You know what? It's pretty freaky. It is like a man bear dog pig. It's a lot. It's a lot of things at once.
So what you're telling me is because this area has been relatively uncontacted, not developed, there's very little tourism, very few people that live there, that the flora and fauna have really flourished over millions of years, and that there's a lot of unique animals that have roamed through this area. In some ways, it actually does remind me of Australia because they have a lot of super unique animals there because they're so isolated from the rest of the world. And so stuff developed there differently. Like I'm thinking of the platypus, which I believe is the only mammal that lays eggs. You know, there's some freaky shit over there. And so I could see how this isolated area might have some freaky shit as well.
So that's the past. Now, let's fast forward into modern times, specifically 1904. There were 3 men who had lived in the Northwest Territories. I mean, they were from this area, so they knew what this terrain was like inside and out. Their names were Willie, Frank, and Charlie, and they were the MCLOUD brothers. The MCLOUD brothers were looking for gold in the Nahanni Valley because it was relatively untouched compared to other mining prospects. They figured that because the Nahanni Valley was so desolate, perhaps there was some things that hadn't been found in there. They had to figure out, first of all, a way to get into Nahanni Valley. They, had to take sled dogs and trains and boats. They had to hike this really difficult terrain in really unforgiving weather to get in here. So it was no easy feat to say, oh, I'm going to go mine Nahanni Valley. But if anyone could do it, it would be these 3 strong brothers who had grown up in this area. They took the Flat River, which actually isn't a flat river. It has a lot of rapids, and it can be a very dangerous river if you don't know what you're doing. It's notorious for dumping people out. Lots of people like to kayak up and down this river. So they start looking for gold along the length of this river, and they're panning with these mesh-like devices called sluice, and it's kind of like a little funnel with a piece of mesh underneath it, and you funnel in rocks into it, you shake it up, and then it sort of, I don't know, what's the word, like sifts through sediment, and then what's supposed to be left is golden nuggets. Now, this was crazy to me because, like, I've only panned for gold when you're at, like, a tourist attraction, and it's like you have, like, a little plastic pan thing and you're, like, moving the water around it and there's, like, little specks. But no, they said, as per their reports, that these were gold nuggets left behind. So, like, actual little, nuggets. Which is crazy to me because was the earth just like really flourishing that much more before we like were here?
Probably. Yeah, like for sure, probably. But yeah, it is interesting that you say there were entire gold nuggets left behind because I grew up in California. So I went through the California public school system, and in elementary school and middle school, we would go on these field trips and about the gold rush. Some of them were about the gold rush. Some of them were about the local tribes that lived in the area. We visited some old missions. We visited some old ranchos. I grew up in kind of a semi-rural area, I guess you could say. And we had to do the panning for gold too, where it was an exercise, like let's recreate what the 49ers went through. And I remember they would specifically plant these little pyrite pieces or gold flakes in the water. And you're right, it was a pan that looked like a sieve, and you would sift through the sediment, and then what was left behind was maybe like 2 flakes of gold. And so that's interesting to think that there's so much there that you could find giant nuggets, which makes me wonder, why weren't more miners and prospectors going to this area? But maybe, like you said, it's just so hard to access. You need to know how to go through rapids. You need to know how to get there and how to camp. And I don't know, maybe that's why. Or is something more nefarious afoot?
I mean, the locals wouldn't touch this place. Like, they would not go there. It was known for being haunted, essentially.
Wow.
So maybe that's the reason. Or were they saying that it was haunted because they didn't want a bunch of prospectors to come and get the gold nuggies?
Yeah, we've talked about that before too. Like, if you don't want somebody to bother you, you should just act like a crazy old witch, you know? If you don't want somebody to come to your house, you should start a rumor that if you step over the threshold of your yard, your front yard, like you will be struck down by lightning. So maybe that was kind of the old way of getting people to leave you alone, was to just start a rumor that anyone who comes here will have their bloodline cursed for generations or whatever it may be. And then people will think twice before visiting you.
It's the Scooby-Doo effect. Could be. So they struck gold. They found nuggies. They gather enough of these gold nuggies. I thought that you would get pissed at me for saying gold nuggies, but you're taking it really well. This is another one of those moments of LGH where, like, you might be like, why am I actually listening to this podcast? But you continue. You continue, and then before you know it, you're going to be saying gold nuggies. You're going to be at lunch ordering, and they're going to be like, can I get your order? And can I have some chicky nuggies, please? And then you're like, oh my God, I've been indoctrinated.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I was just assuming that you've spent too much time with your children and that you were channeling them.
Okay. So they've gathered enough of these golden nuggets to go sell, and they're like, you know what, let's get the fuck out of this place. This is too hard to be in. We're going to go sell them, and we'll return later because we literally just struck gold. But they get back on this flat river, and their boat literally falls apart and sinks. All of the gold is lost, but in these like last moments, they're clamoring, trying not to die, essentially. They're like, okay, we have to have some supplies with us. So they like take out some rope, they get some lumber, and they take some supplies and just like throw them on the shore, but their boat is gone and lost and not safe anymore. So then they have to make another boat from their supplies, and then they go back to the spot that they had found gold at earlier. But by the time that they got back to the spot that they had found gold at earlier to go sell, the gold was gone. No gold is there. And this is kind of crazy because it was like an abundance of gold, right? Like they were just like panning there, and so much gold would show up to where they were like, okay, we got to go get rid of all this gold because we literally can't carry all of this back before we come and get more. So that seemed a little bit strange. Then they go to sleep and they decide that, you know what, we're just going to leave the next day. There's no gold here, whatever. But when they get home, the youngest brothers, Willie and Frank, decide that, you know what, we want to go back to that valley. We're not, just going to forget about the riches that were back there. If they weren't exactly where we had left them, then I bet if we just keep walking up and down the river, we'll find more. And the oldest brother was like, I don't know. I don't really want to go. We almost like died in that whole boat situation. And he was just like not down to go, which was like a little strange, but maybe he was just, I don't know. Maybe there's more to life than being rich to him. I don't know. Maybe he was thinking that, I'm related to them. So if they strike it rich, then I will still live a comfortable life. There's no need to like go through that trauma again. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't imagine making the dangerous and long journey up to that area for the sole purpose of getting gold. And then you lose all of your gold and now you're just expected to go back. That would be really hard to do because you've just dedicated days, weeks, months of your life to this endeavor, and then to just come back empty-handed would be really difficult.
I know. It's like when you're editing an episode and then it like all gets lost and you're just like, fuck!
Yeah. God,
you're like,
it's the worst feeling.
Do I like go back through and edit it like with the same panache and the same passion and love and to get that product that's good? Or do I just say, you know what, fuck it. Like, I'm not doing it again. And they're just going to get what they get.
Yeah, the times that's happened to me, I feel like when you lose an entire recording or when you lose an entire edit because something crashes or whatever, you just have to go home and try again the next day. Yeah. Because if you keep trying to edit the day of, you're just going to be so bitter.
Hey guys, it's Nat. There are a lot of awesome things that have come out of Australia. Remember when everyone used to wear Uggs with mini skirts? I had a pair of purple Ugg boots. I wore those down to the soul, physically and emotionally. From behind, you could look at me wearing Uggs and tell that I pronated my feet. I fixed that pronation problem, in case you're wondering. But my new favorite Aussie export that is finally available in the United States is the KOALA sofa bed. Y'all, this is not your grandmother's sofa bed. This sofa bed belongs to the hottest person you know. Now, if that is your grandma, slay. First of all, KOALA makes the most comfortable mattresses, and the sofa beds actually use the KOALA mattress technology inside, so they are more comfortable than a traditional sofa bed. KOALA sofa beds are more slay than your traditional sofa bed because they're inspired by the Aussie outback, not your grandma's guest room with the porcelain dolls that watch you while you sleep. KOALA's sofa beds have no metal frame. That's comfortable. And I know what you're thinking, guys, I don't want to put furniture together. I'm not a builder. So you will be pleased to hear that KOALA sofa beds are tool-free assembly. There's no Allen wrenches, no stress, no tears. Everything comes in the box. It easily slides, clicks, or screws together. They're perfect for small spaces. They're eco-friendly and ethical. They get fast shipping and free returns. There's no delivery or restocking fees. Plus, you're going to get a 120-night risk-free trial. Upgrade your space with the most stylish, customizable, and elevated sofa bed available. To get $100 off your new sofa plus fast shipping, go to us.koala.com/haunted. That's us.koala.com/haunted and get $100 off your new sofa. KOALA. Comfy, easy, sustainable. And now back to your regularly scheduled haunting. So yeah, the oldest brother's like, you know what? I'm not going to tempt fate. I'm not going. You guys go. The two younger brothers, Willie and Frank, they have to prep this trip for a year because, like I said, it's like a really big deal. And they're going in with the hopes of like, okay, we already found out that Nahanni Valley has gold, and now we need to go in to like build and really stay there for a really long time. Like we're going to stay there for several years and mine because it's such a literal gold mine. So they go and they find this dude. His name is the Scotsman by some reports. Other reports just called him Robert, so I don't know if he's like a Scottish man or if his name was Robert Scotsman, but sometimes he's the Scotsman, sometimes he's Robert. Some sources said that they didn't know him that well and that he was basically just like a hired hand that was going to help them. Other sources say that he was like their really trusted friend and they were excited to bring him along and they all had like a good relationship, so that will be of note later. But basically this guy, Robert, he is going to go in with them to help because they kind of need the manpower to get through this wilderness area. They don't say how long they're going to be gone because they're like, I don't know, maybe we'll be there for 10 years if we find El Dorado. So weeks go by after they leave. Nobody hears from them. Their older brother isn't worried because he's like, I'm sure they just found gold and they're fine. Then a year goes by. Still nobody's heard from them. The older brother is like, you know what? I'm sure it's probably fine. Then 2 years goes by and the older brother's like, well, maybe I've not been such a good brother. 2 years seems like a lot of time to let your family be missing in the woods, right? So he's like, you know what? I'm going to get together a party and we're going to go find them. He gets together this search party and they travel into the Nahanni Valley. They go through all the rivers. They're, in the rapids going upstream. It's very, very difficult. They're risking their lives to try to find these two brothers. They're scanning the banks for signs of life anywhere, looking for equipment, looking for shelters, any sign that perhaps the boys were there, but there's nothing. Then they enter this 10-mile stretch along the river. And this stretch of river has really high cliff faces, like sheer cliff faces that go along the edges of the river. So when you're on the river, it's really loud. Everything is echoing. It's really windy because you're like in a chute. And the cliff faces go up probably like 1,000 feet. I mean, it is so freaking tall, and not 1,000 feet, maybe hundreds of feet. 1,000 feet would be crazy. That would be like, I don't know. What's
the
1,000
Grand Canyon?
feet?
Yeah. How deep is the Grand Canyon? Should we
Let's
Google?
look it up.
Okay. How deep Grand Canyon? It says 6,000 feet.
That's like
at its
multiple
deepest
miles.
point.
What?
Yeah. It says it averages about 1 mile or 1,609 meters, which is 5,280 feet.
Shit.
Wow.
So I guess it could be 1,000 feet up.
It could be.
Yeah.
How deep No, what'd you say?
Nahanni Valley cliff height.
Cliff. Okay, this is what it says. 3,937 feet is the deepest point.
Yeah.
Whew.
So, yeah, really, really
sounds
tall.
fake. It sounds fake.
But it's not. And when you're going through this stretch, it's like you can't get off of it, right? Because there's no shoreline to the left or the right. You just kind of have to go through this little straw-like thin area with these cliffs on the side of you. But this whole area has a ton of caves and cave systems that haven't been mapped out or discovered or looked at during this time because this area is so desolate, right? So as you're going through there, there's like little windows, they look like, in the cave systems that are coming out of these cliffs, and people haven't been through some of them that are way up at the top. And there's this really eerie feeling when you're going through there where people feel like perhaps there's something inside of those caves watching people as they go through this area, just kind of like staring at them. And it's very sort of vulnerable because you can't leave. You just have to go through. And for a lot of people, that, you know, it's like a total loss of control.
Okay, so the McLeod brothers, they have fancy little mustaches. They look well groomed. It's black and white photography because that's how you know it's old timey.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them's got like a scarf around his neck. He looks fancy.
Slay.
One of them looks like, yeah, it's very slay. One of them looks like he has blue eyes, possibly, which is also slay because I don't have blue eyes.
Yeah.
So anytime I see someone with blue eyes, I'm like, slay, you
Yeah.
know, like, hell yeah, dude. Like, good for you.
Have you ever seen those pictures where it's like they take really good looking celebrities that have blue eyes and then they just like edit their eyes to brown, and then you like look at them and they're just like really unattractive and like their face looks like it's just like you're like, wow, I never noticed that like their cheeks aren't even, or like something like that, right? Like it's just like a weird thing your brain does, like makes them less attractive, and then you're like going back, like they're side by side, right? Like it's like a picture of what they look like and then a picture of them with brown eyes only. That's the only difference.
I see what you're saying. People with blue eyes, you look at the eyes first. Everything else is secondary. And so if there is something that's uneven on them, the odds are you're not going to notice it because you're just like, whoa, why do your eyes look like pools of deep ocean water?
They look like, okay, look, you guys that don't know what Aly and I look like, we both have brown eyes, so we're allowed to slander people with brown eyes. In these specific posts that I'm thinking on Instagram, whenever I see those like edited pictures, like it makes people look more evil. Like I feel like when you describe someone who's not trustworthy, they're like, they had beady eyes, right? Like you don't describe someone with beady eyes. Like beady eyes means dark eyes, right?
Oh, I thought it just meant small. Like
No.
they just have, like you have little small eyes that are really like narrow and they're just looking at you like a little.
Are you serious?
Little
My
guy.
whole life I've been reading books thinking that when someone said someone had beady eyes, it meant they had like
You could be
small
right.
dark eyes.
Okay, what does it mean to have beady eyes? Dictionary.com. Marked by having small, glittering eyes, especially eyes that seem to gleam with malice, avarice, or lechery.
I just made it up in my mind that it meant dark. Oh my God, I'm like this. I'm racist against myself. I do this stuff subconsciously, I feel like. I don't even know.
Well, anyway, one of these guys looks like he's got Miley Cyrus eyes, you know, where she's just staring with her blue eyes in that meme. And then the other guy looks like, I don't know what kind of eyes he has. They look like they're a bit beadier, though. And then the lower photo shows both of them leaning on a log structure that they appear to have built themselves. There's an axe in the foreground, and they look very satisfied. And they do look like they are the type of dudes that are going to be out there getting smelly, looking for some gold nuggets.
Snacks also.
Yeah. I mean, for the time, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with you on this one.
Really?
They're not ugly, but they look like they've got malice in their hearts.
Oh, wow. See, you and I feel like the malice is what I like about them. Like, I'm looking at the one on the right and the one with the Miley Cyrus eyes. He has like this 1,000-yard stare where it's like, you look like a robot, you know? Like,
But I will say, you have always gravitated towards blonde men with blue eyes, and I've always gravitated towards dark-eyed men with dark hair. And I think it's because it's like, you know, you want what you're not used to. And so if you're used to like dark eyes and dark hair, you're like, oh my God, Miley Cyrus with the Hannah Montana wig. That's my everything. And then if you're Hannah Montana, then you're like, oh no, I want the opposite of what I'm used to. Right. So it does make sense to me that you would find the man on the right attractive.
Yeah. Yeah.
He looks like one of your exes, actually. Similar.
Oh, thank you. God, I did so well for myself, didn't I? Okay. So now look at the pictures of this 200-mile gorge.
Wow. Yeah, this is crazy, guys. If you want to see these photos, head over to @LetsGetHaunted on Instagram, or you can watch the video version of this episode on YouTube. Just Google YouTube Let's Get Haunted. It'll pop right up. But this is crazy. This is so much deeper than I was imagining in my mind, because in the photo that I'm looking at, guys, it's a modern photo. It's color. It's a color photograph. And there's this little winding stream / river, and the walls of this cliff are so high that you cannot even see the top, and it really puts it into perspective because there's 2 people kayaking through this gorge, and they are so tiny in comparison to this cliff. I mean, it's wild. It's very beautiful. I would love to visit this place, but it also is scary. It sort of puts into perspective how small and insignificant humans are in the face of Mother Nature.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I wonder, is this like the Canadian Grand Canyon? Or do they say the Grand Canyon is the Canadian Grand... No. What? Wait, no. Hold on. Oh, I got it. Okay. Do they say that the Grand Canyon is the Canadian Nahanni Valley Gorge?
Wow.
200-mile.
What came first, the gorge or the canyon? I don't know.
Oh my God, that was like fried. Like there is something in my brain that will never be the same after that. That like took up some stuff in there. Like I just lost like a language that I knew at one point. Okay, so they're going through this scary gorge thing, looking around. They feel like they're being watched. It's creepy. They're like, oh, do we feel weird because we know about all these crazy stories and we feel like maybe the brothers are missing, which makes it even creepier? Or is it weird because we're in this like dark, weird gorge and, you know, it's stressful? So as they're going through here, they come into this second canyon and they see that the shoreline is increasing just slightly. And they're like, you know what? This is the perfect place to set up a camp. And what do you know? There's a tent on the shoreline. They get really excited. They're like, this is a lead. Maybe we're about to find the brothers right now. And upon closer inspection, they realize that outside the front of the tent is someone laying down. They get a little bit closer and they realize that it's not someone laying down. It is a charred, decapitated corpse.
What? That is so creepy because, again, imagine you're all alone. It's just you and your brother, whoever the fuck these 2 guys were, I already have forgotten. And they're going down the river and they see a tent. Like that, to me, that's scary already because you're like, holy shit, I was expecting to be all alone. Mm-hmm. And then to see that it's a dead, decapitated, and decapitated implies that it could not be an animal that had gotten to this body. It sounds like somebody came, chopped off the head of this person and set them on fire.
I'm so glad you said that, because they get even closer to the body and they realize that even though it doesn't have a head anymore, they can kind of still see the position that the body was in when it died. And there's an arm that's just reaching up. And when they follow the arm that's reaching up, they see that the arm was reaching for a rifle that was leaning against a tree, right just out of reach of that arm. So then they're like, okay, maybe this was an accident. They don't know. So they're gonna look around the tent because they can't identify this body. They don't know whether it's one of the brothers or not because it's literally missing a head and is completely charred. So they go around the other side of the tent and they see part of a body sticking out of the tent in a very strange position. It almost looks like someone was sleeping and they like ran to get out of the tent and then they just like fell down, or perhaps they were running to get into the tent, but they're like half in, half out of the tent. Once again, they're charred, burned, and they're missing their head. So the search party now is like, okay, these are 2 bodies, but we can't tell if it's the brothers or not. Also, there was a third person with the brothers. Remember that Scotsman Robert was with them. There's no third body that they can see. So they walk around. They're looking for personal belongings, effects, something to identify this group to know whether or not it's the brothers. And they were able to identify Frank and Willie by their personal belongings. But once again, the third man, Robert, was nowhere to be found. So people are a little bit concerned about perhaps where is Robert, because they're like, is this the killer? Is he on the loose? Was he trying to run away from something else? And so he just got further down. Is he still missing? Is he going to come up? Like, is this, a loose end that we need to be worried about right now?
Yeah. Yeah. Because my assumption is that he's probably the guy that went crazy so far, learning about this, because if it's super unpopulated and we can kind of probably rule out an animal attack, because an animal typically doesn't set you on fire and chop your head off. And it kind of seems like it wouldn't be like an outsider, because why wouldn't they steal the rifle? The rifle's just laying there. If you're an outsider and you're coming up and you're going to murder some people, aren't you murdering them because you want something from them? Like, that's really the only reason why you would go that far. So it seems like it's the missing third person might be the person. I don't know. Maybe he went crazy. Maybe he got gold fever, and just murdered for treasure.
Right. Or, maybe it was someone trying to send a sign. Like, if he did get gold fever, he could be like, okay, I'm going to, dispose of these bodies in a way that's gonna send a message. Because if you really wanted to get away with murder, you would just hide the bodies, right? Like, bury them somewhere.
True.
No one's ever gonna find them. Like, get rid of the tent, get rid of all of the sign that they were ever there. But instead, whoever did this or whatever did this left like this message, it kind of seems like, of like, if you come here, there's an unwanted presence, or bad things are gonna happen if you're here, essentially.
Yeah, stay away.
Stay away. Perfect. Hey guys, what's up? It's Nat. I'm trying to lose like 40 pounds right now, and the scale is stuck. I just had a baby, so I'm gonna give myself a little bit of grace, but I also don't love it here. I'm not trying to set up camp. I don't love it, to be honest. Like, I understand life's all about the journey, so I'm gonna enjoy where I'm at and live my life, but I'm also trying to move on. I'm trying to like get out of what feels like a flesh prison right now, okay? Like, I'm trying to get to a place where like I don't need support garments just to do laundry around the house. You know what I'm saying? Which means I have to start thinking about nutrition, which I hate. Just one more job: podcaster, mom, horseback rider, and a nutritionist. I don't have time for this many jobs. I'm also a pro gamer sometimes, which is why I love Factor. This is gonna be my best season yet, with nutritious 2-minute meals from Factor. Eating well has never been this easy. All I have to do is just heat up and enjoy, giving me more time to do some goblet squats in the gym, because Factor meals arrive fresh and ready to eat. They're perfect for your active lifestyle. There are 45 weekly menu options, so you can pick gourmet meals that fit your goals. Choose from Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, and more. Bim bap, boom bap, bim bap, bow. Factor can power your day with satisfying breakfast, on-the-go lunches, premium dinner, and guilt-free snacks and desserts. Get started at factormeals.com/letsgethauntedFifty and use code LetsGetHauntedFifty to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code LetsGetHauntedFifty at factormeals.com/letsgethauntedFifty for 50% off plus free shipping. And now back to your regularly scheduled haunting. Several months go by, and they find later a piece of a skeleton that's down the river, and they assumed that to be Robert, but who's to say? They don't really know, because it had been so much time had passed. They can't really identify it. And if it was Robert who was on this murder spree, maybe he got gist of it or whatever, and was like, oh, they are assuming that I did it, so now I should like plant a skeleton or something to make it seem like I also died. They just don't know. They're trying to put puzzle pieces together that seem like they're not quite fitting, but everyone's just like, you know what, it's fine. They also, next to the campground, upon further inspection, found a note that was carved into a tree. And it said on the note, "We have found a fine prospect." But there was no gold anywhere in the camp. So the RMCP, the Royal Mounted Canadian Police, I think, right? That's what that stands for. Do they have a different word? Yeah, Mountie. The Mounties, whatever. They did this investigation and they claimed that all 3 of the men had starved and then animals took their heads and ran away. People
and lit them on fire?
That's what I'm saying. People were like, why are the police just saying this is an accident? Because it really doesn't seem like an accident at all. And Charlie, the brother that went looking for them, he said, no, it was for sure murder by local tribes. Like there's, indigenous people that live in this area. And he believes that they killed his brothers and they were sending that signal to them. But this whole story made the news because there had long been, this tale of like ancient evil that was there. And then these 2 guys wind up decapitated. The 3rd guy's missing. So people were really divided on this at the time. Some people thought that Robert murdered the brothers and then planted the other skeleton to get away with all of the gold. Some people thought that all 3 men had been attacked by someone or something outside of their party. Some sources allege that the brothers were found tied to a tree and that a grave was dug nearby for the men by the search party. But all of the details agree that the bodies were decapitated and charred and burned. Now, after this story, this second canyon, this part of Nahanni Valley became known as the Headless Valley from this story. And after the story in 1904, this becomes an infamous valley, the Headless Valley. People are like, we know that there's gold down there because that's what all the legends and the lore say. But there's also a mysterious evil lurking there. Is it a killer on the loose? Some people thought that there was for sure just like a murderer running around chopping heads off.
Oh, that's creepy. It's just a crazed mountain man. Like the Unabomber has just decided to make his way to the Nahanni Valley, and anyone who visits, he just like sniffs them out, because he's insane, and he has an axe or something and is just chopping people's heads off and setting them on fire. That's so creepy.
Well, also, like, these miners, they're setting up camps right next to the river. And so it's, like, very easy to see when someone comes in. And if, they're
True.
going through that, like, little chute in the canyon with the cliff sides alongside both of them, they're probably making a lot of noise. They're probably yelling while they're, like, kayaking or in the boat down this river, being like, up ahead, right, starboard, row, or whatever. I don't know. Whatever you do when you're on Whitewater Rapids in the 1904s, bro. Like, now we have like an inflated thing and everyone's like in life vests, and so if you fall out in the rapids, it's like no one really cares. But back then, if you fall out, you probably would die.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Yeah. So my point is that the people that were mining there weren't exactly like hiding their existence. So if there was like a serial killer running around, he could very easily, or they could very easily chop some heads off. I don't know. So now we're going to fast forward to 1913. About 10 years have gone by since we had this infamous murder of the McLeod brothers. There's a Swiss miner. His name is Martin Jorgensen. He goes upstream about 70 miles north of where the McLeod decapitated brothers were found, and he builds a little one-room cabin. He had planned to winter in this cabin, and then he was going to reunite with his crew after the summer began. Once again, struck nuggies. He sends word to his friends that he found gold and he was going to be rich. And here I just started like getting kind of delusional, and I kept writing like tale as old as time, and I was like trying to make a song, like, that song, it's like tale as old as time. This, you're going to be singing that by the end of this episode, because that is like what encapsulates this whole story. It's just like a repeat wash, rinse, recycle cycle. People go out looking for gold. They get real fucked up. They get missing, and then they're not found, and their shit's burned up. That's what happened to this guy. His crew goes to the meeting spot. They're like, where's Martin? He's not here. They can't find him. Then they go looking for him. They find that his cabin has been burned to the ground. And guess what? Next to this burned up cabin, another torched, decapitated corpse.
Oh, there's for sure something crazy living in those woods. You know, in this valley, there's someone that is a serial killer that just hasn't been caught yet.
But 10
Because that's their
years?
MO.
Do you think like serial killing, I would have to assume takes a lot of energy, especially back then, right? Like decapitating corpses. Well, I guess burning the bodies isn't as hard as having to hide them. So maybe it is easy. I was going to say like, okay, let's say you started being a serial killer at like 20. I don't know. I'm just throwing out a number there. Do you think at 30 you're still going to like be serial killing? You're like, this is the life for me?
Well, it sounds like this, like you've mentioned, this is such an isolated location that maybe the supplies that you would get from looting and killing would be worth it to continue living out there. Like, I don't know, maybe this guy is in this theory that I'm going with right now, and I could change my mind as I learn more about the story, but if you had escaped society because of some reason, maybe you were a murderer, you were about to go to trial, you escaped to the wilderness, and you're living out there, at some point, if you see somebody else out there, maybe their tent is attractive to you, or their weaponry is attractive, or their gold is attractive for whatever reason. Or maybe you just don't want them going back to civilization later having seen your face if you accidentally come across them. So maybe you're like, oh shit, I gotta chop these people's heads off, make sure they're dead, light them on fire so that I'm not found out.
But I mean, like, okay, let's say you wanted their tent or you wanted something they had. If you lived here and you knew where all of the gold was and you knew these people were like obsessed with gold, wouldn't you just be like, hey, can I have your tent? Like, here's some gold.
Maybe, but then again, but do you want them coming back to you and bothering you? That's what I keep coming back to. Maybe whatever or whoever is living here just doesn't want to be bothered. Because that's what you said. Like, this seems like a sign. Like, this seems like a warning. Like, stay away. This is going to happen to you if you come here.
Yeah, the deaths seem connected, right? Like the burned bodies and decapitated heads. But here's what's weird is that the police didn't think that Martin's decapitated, burned up corpse death was related to the McLeod brothers. They were like, no, we don't know what for sure killed this guy, but it was probably animals that took the skull away. And even though all of the gold was gone or there was no gold found with the guy, they were like, it was probably just animals. So some of the police were like, well, he just never found gold and he, froze to death and then burned to death and then animals took his head away. And it just makes perfect sense if you don't think about it.
Look, I could maybe get on board if they also weren't burned. That's the thing. You can't just chop your own head off and burn yourself to death.
What if it was a bear, though, and they had learned how to make fire? Hey guys, it's Nat. I don't know, it feels like we just invented AI like a couple years ago. And now we're using AI to track mosquitoes. No, this is not a bit. This is real. Now listen, who among us hasn't been trying to sleep at night and you hear like a and it's dark in your room, you're like, get up! You start losing your marbles a little bit, thinking, maybe ghosts are talking to me, or is there really a mosquito in my house right now? This next sponsor is gonna solve that problem for you. Introducing this episode's sponsor, BZIGO Iris. BZIGO Iris is a smart home mosquito detector. Y'all, we're living in a world where AI is driving cars and it's automating our homes, and we can't even find a mosquito? Not anymore, because BZIGO Iris is the first AI-powered mosquito detector. It's gonna revolutionize pest control. Not only are mosquitoes a nuisance, their bites can lead to health concerns. Temperatures are rising in these urban areas. We're gonna start seeing mosquito populations grow, which is gonna increase the risk of mosquito-related health issues. I know what you're thinking. How does it work? Well, the BZIGO Iris is a cutting-edge device that uses computer vision and AI to detect, track, and pinpoint mosquitoes in real time. It's kind of fun. It like literally detects your room and then it puts like a little laser pointer near where the mosquito has landed, and then you can just eliminate them. Y'all, this is so cool, honestly. Like, you don't have to have weird chemicals floating around your house. You can just start using the BZIGO. We are so cooked. But right now we're simmering, okay? And so I'm gonna enjoy the AI. Stop losing sleep over mosquitoes. Take back your nights with BZIGO. Go to BZIGO.com/discount/LGH and save 10% off. That's BZIGO.com/discount/LGH and use code LGH to get 10% off. Say goodbye to itchy bites and sleepless nights. Thank you, BZIGO, for sponsoring this episode. And now back to your regularly scheduled haunting.
Man, I don't know. Isn't that famously what sets humans apart from the rest of the animal kingdom, is that we learned how to make the wheel and how to make fire?
Yeah, I mean, supposedly. I could be cavemen in there. There could be some people in there, right, that are just like so isolated that they don't know what other people are at all, and maybe they've been told that like, hey, the outside world is bad. Maybe it's like an M. Night Shyamalan movie for them in there. You know what I mean? Like they're like living in a little village inside there.
Right.
They've been told that everyone else is evil.
But wasn't the end of that movie just that they were living in like an experiment almost? Yeah.
Yeah. So who's to say that it couldn't be an experiment? Look, I'm just trying to make this episode last longer than 45 minutes, guys.
Okay, I ended up Googling, this was 30 minutes ago, what was older, the Nahanni River Valley Gorge or the Grand Canyon? And the Nahanni River Valley Gorge formed before the Grand Canyon. It began over 200 million years ago, and the Grand Canyon's formation is believed to have started between 5 and 70 million years ago. So this is way older than the Grand Canyon.
The Grand Canyon is the Canadian Nahanni Gorge.
Is the
Valley
American...
River. Yeah.
Yeah, the Grand Canyon is the American version of the Nahanni River Valley Gorge. But actually, maybe not at all, because it's...
Damn it.
I don't know much about the climatic differences and...
Right. Oh, well,
such.
one other thing that I should mention about this gorge is that there's a bunch of hot springs in the area. So this is like a very strange area, right? Like it gets super, super cold in the winter. Like you will die in the winter if you don't know what you're doing. But then the summers are kind of mild because there's like all these hot springs in the area. And because there's like the cold air and then the hot springs, it makes all of this like steam that kind of hang out in the area. And some people speculate that maybe there's, you know, like a tropical hidden area away from everyone. Like some people have said like this is like a hollow earth situation, and that if you go in some of those caves or something somewhere in there, there's a tropical place, and then that's why it's like hot steam everywhere. I don't know. It seems kind of stupid to me, but...
No, I love that because on the episode we did a couple years ago on alpine folklore, which is in a completely different part of the world, I remember that there was a piece of folklore about, like, if you wander through these cold Alps for long enough, you'll come upon a fairy gorge, and that fairy valley is, like, abundant and warm and beautiful, and there's sunshine, and so, yeah, that would be super cool if you're just wandering through these cold, deep, thousands of miles deep in these gorges, and then you climb into some random cave system and pop out in a beautiful gilded valley. That would be, oh, I love that. I love that kind of folklore.
Yeah, like a golden valley. And there's just like wild horses there.
Spirit the horse lives there. He smiles at you as you enter.
With his eyebrows.
Yes.
Once again, people are going nuts. They're like, this valley is for sure haunted. These deaths are for sure connected. The police are not doing their job. There's got to be a killer on the loose. Are you getting deja vu yet? Because, once again, tale as old as time. Fast forward to 1921. Tale as old as time. Two gold prospectors, John O'Brien and his partner, they decide, you know what, we're going to go and we're going to brave the Nahanni Valley despite these mysterious decapitations because the gold is just too tempting. And John O'Brien was a World War I veteran and a trapper. So he was an experienced woodsman. He had lived through World War I. He's not afraid of any ghosts. And honestly, being decapitated during World War I might have been the best thing that could have happened to you because dying in World War I think it was like a lot of disease. Like I'm pretty sure disease killed more people than actual combat in World War I, if I'm remembering correctly. And
Trench foot.
Yeah, trench warfare, and the machine gun had been invented then. I think they were using like heavy artillery, but people were also like on horses with swords. World War One was insane. So this guy is not like afraid of some nature, some scary trees. Like he's like, whatever, it's a river, I don't care. So him and his partner, they go and they set up camp near where the McLeod brothers were found, and everything is going well. Once again, struck nuggies, tale as old as time. John tells his, I'm hitting that last note so flat, you guys. When I practiced this, it was beautiful. I was like, wow, everyone's
You
gonna
practiced this?
Yeah, oh yeah, I practiced this. I practiced it. I was like, tell us all. Now I can't do it, but it was so good. It was so good, and it's really frustrating. Anyone else who like has like a really inconsistent singing voice will understand me. It's like sometimes you can like really just like lay it out, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, you're amazing," and then other times you just are like completely average, and so you're always looking for that high of like that one time you were amazing because you're like, "What was that? Was that in me somewhere? Is that like unlocked? Like Justin Bieber is in there somewhere. I don't know how to access it. You know what I mean? So I just got to keep trying. Or are you just like, this life isn't for me? I don't know. Let me know if you guys know what I'm talking about. So anyways, John goes down to the river and he's checking on some gold prospects because he's like, we already struck gold, so there's probably more over here. So he like goes and sets essentially like gold traps down the river or whatever. He's going and looking, and he's like, I'm going to be back in 8 days. Well, 8 days go by. His partner's waiting for him. You want to sing it this time?
Tale as old as time. Somebody commented on the last episode where I did a singing voice, and someone was like, that voice that she did that was supposed to be, I don't even remember what the story was about. This was a few episodes ago. They're like, that voice that she did that was supposed to be like an old douchebag just sounds like Carl Weezer from Jimmy Neutron. And I was laughing really hard when I read that.
Oh my God, Carl Weezer. Yeah, his
friend.
God.
He wheezed because he had asthma, and he had his little inhaler, and he wears glasses and had suspenders.
That's so frustrating to be friends with Jimmy Neutron. Like, he's so smart and he can do whatever. Like, he can like build a gun that like zaps you to another dimension. He just like thinks of it in that instant, and then you're just his friend who's like out of shape and has asthma and like can't do anything other than just be there, you know?
Right. You don't get any brain blasts. Like, that sucks.
So, once again, tale as old as time. John never shows up. The partner teams up with another local miner to go and find John. So then these two men begin walking up and down the stream, looking along these traps, looking for John. And they do find him. O'Brien was found sitting upright in front of a previously lit campfire, completely alert, holding a matchbook in his hand. But upon further inspection, the men realized that O'Brien was completely frozen. He wasn't hunched over at all. His face showed no signs of suffering or pain. And this led people to believe that perhaps O'Brien had been flash frozen.
I don't know what that is. Elaborate.
Flash frozen is like when something's frozen in an instant. It like didn't. So normally when people freeze to death, they freeze like in positions where it looks like their body is trying to keep warm because they were freezing. You know, like we did the Dyatlov Pass episode, and those people were found in really strange positions, and that's like more common when people are freezing to death because they like seek shelter somewhere. You wouldn't just freeze to death with a matchbook in your hand sitting in front of the fire, right? Like
I see what you're saying. Yeah, because if it almost seems like he's planted there or posed or something, perhaps by a serial killer. I don't know. I'm still on the serial killer train right now. But yeah, because you're right. In that story, in the Dyatlov Pass incident, we learned about paradoxical undressing, where when you're freezing to death, it's this panic mode that your body goes into where you almost feel warm, and you feel so warm and so hot that you're just stripping off clothing because you're trying to alleviate this feverish feeling that you get. And so, yeah, people can do crazy things. They run off from their group. They are found naked or nearly naked. They're found contorted and weird positions that they fall in. And so you're right, it is strange that he would be sitting there looking straight ahead, looking perfectly normal by a campfire that presumably is burning, or I don't know, maybe it was at one time burning and he has this matchbook in his hand so he can light it again, assuming it's not raining, and he's just frozen to death.
Flash frozen. And that's like a lot of times, like vegetables are flash frozen. Like it's just like, we froze them really fast. That's what I'm assuming it is. But I don't know. I thought beady eyes meant small, dark eyes. And I was wrong about that. So I might be wrong about flash frozen as well. But the police said, you know what? This is strange, but we think he was flash frozen, whatever that means. And they don't attribute his death to like match up with any of the other deaths in the area. They're like, it's strange, but we don't think that it's connected. Now, fast forward once again to 1926. There's a woman, her name is Annie Lafferty, and this woman is with this hunting party, and they are going through the Nahanni Valley. They're camped out along the flat river inside of this Headless Valley area. Everyone is in really good spirits. They're camping out. They're having a good time. You know, they're telling stories. You know how it is when you go camping. It's just jolly, right? But when they wake up the next morning, Annie is completely gone. The hunting party is like, how did this happen? She was with us last night. We were all together. You know, it was unlike her to walk away. Maybe she walked away and to go use the bathroom or something, or to go get like some fresh water or do something. I don't know. She's a hunter. So she's like a wild outdoors type gal too. Maybe she's doing something. I don't know. But we should probably go look for her, because in these conditions, if you go out by yourself, you're at risk of either getting lost or, you know, braving the elements by yourself. Like, you have to have equipment and stuff like that with you to survive out here in the conditions. So they're going to go look for her, because it seems really sketch that she just left all her stuff behind and she's nowhere to be found. So the hunting party spends the rest of the day searching for Annie. They're calling out her name. They're walking along the river. They're looking for clues as to where she could have gone. Then they call the police. And the police form this gigantic search party. And once again, the Headless Valley is on the talk of the town. Everyone's looking for Annie Lafferty, but they never, ever find her. Now, months go by, and according to the lore, there's this man. His name is Charlie. And he had been near the scene by the flat river when this hunting party was there and Annie had gone missing. And he got wind of this missing girl story after he had already like left his hunting trip. And then he starts to put together some things that he remembered from his trip, thinking that maybe they were connected. Specifically, he said that while he was out in the Headless Valley the same night that Annie went missing, he was sleeping, and then he woke up because he heard the sound of rocks falling into the river in front of him.
Oh.
So he's hearing rocks falling, falling, falling. And the rocks don't sound so small that it would just be like, you know, a squirrel or something going by, or like a mouse. It sounds like these are bigger rocks, but they're not like natural rock fall. It sounds like someone is picking up rocks and throwing them in the river. So he's kind of sitting there thinking, is this some sort of animal or something? Because, you know, he's a hunter. And all of a sudden, he hears a rock splash into the river over to his left. When he turns over to the left, he sees a white, naked woman running on all fours up the cliff face. And as she is running up this cliff face, her feet and her hands are pushing off these rocks, and they're falling into the river below. Now, Charlie says that as he's watching this naked woman on all fours run up this cliff, suddenly she stops. She turns to look directly at him, and he said that her face had a rictus grin and wild, wide eyes. Charlie said that he was so scared because she looked like haunted, like there was something possessing her, that he decided not to follow her because he was thinking to himself that she was not exactly human. Something was wrong with her. She was evil in some sort. But he thought it was all like a nightmare. He thought it was all a dream, that it definitely didn't happen when he woke up the next morning. However, when he got wind of this girl that went missing that night, he started to think, well, hey, I saw a naked woman who kind of fit this woman's description. in my dream, maybe it wasn't a dream. Maybe I had actually woke up and maybe I had actually seen that happen. And then when he told the police that story, they showed him a picture of Annie and he said that was her.
Ew, that's so creepy. You just see somebody running on all fours in the moonlight and they like turn around and look straight at you and they're just smiling super big and they're naked. If I ever came across a naked person in the woods, I don't know what I would do. I might murder them, to be honest with you, because there's nothing good can come from you being alone, running on all fours, naked in the wilderness. You're right. There is something strange about it because it's animal behavior, right? Like an animal doesn't wear clothes. An animal runs on all fours, but it's a person. That's super creepy. Just the image of like, ooh, and she turns around, she makes eye contact with you, like she consents that you're watching her.
Yeah. Yeah, and so people are like, maybe she got possessed by whatever the spirits are out there. Maybe she was turned into something else there. Maybe she was terrified and she was running from something else. I don't know. Maybe the guy... there's so many theories as to why someone would be running around being all creepy. Like, what does even rictus mean?
I have no idea. Maybe just like stiff. Like a stiff smile, like ha 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 ha. What? How do you spell it? Let me look. I like to learn new words.
Rictus.
Rictus grin, a fixed grimace or grin.
Oh yeah, like this.
You're like, oh, that's so scary. You're making a very scary face right now. That is haunting. If I saw that in the night. Again, I would chop your head off. Maybe that's how people are getting their heads chopped off. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like a tetanus grin. Like when you get tetanus, all your muscles freeze up. That's why it's so scary and why you should definitely be vaccinated against it. And your body just like freezes and you have this like weird like like grimace thing. And oh, it's so creepy.
I did not know that. I did not know that tetanus gives you a scary smile.
Well, you'll die from it, but yeah, it like freezes your muscles and makes them all froze. Yeah, like you have trouble moving and like, so
see, I feel like growing up in Oklahoma, like you get cut by rusted stuff all the time, especially if you're like into horse stuff or whatever. Like you like touch barbed wire, it's all rusted and whatever, and you just go home and forget about it. And I remember parents being like, "You'll get tetanus. Like tetanus is really bad," but they never told me what it was. They were just like, you don't want tetanus because you don't want to get the shot. That's what they would always say. You don't want a tetanus shot. It's a really big shot. So like, don't play where there's rust. But I feel like if they would have told me what you just told me, I would be like, I'm for sure getting that shot. Like, I'm doing it.
Well, you probably did get it as a child because it's good for 10 years. So you don't need to get it redone unless it's been, and I don't know, someone correct me if the science has changed. But my understanding is you don't have to get it unless it's been over 10 years since your last shot. And if you have an incident where you get, like you step on a rusted nail or something. Because one time I went to a friend's birthday in Bakersfield. There is a river there that is very rapids. I didn't even know that Bakersfield had a river, but it does. And so I went for a friend's birthday, whitewater rafting and camping in Bakersfield. And it was gross. It was a gross river. I'm going to be totally honest with you. There were like dirty diapers floating around. It was so gross. And at one point, like a dog had scratched me or something. I don't remember exactly what happened. And I didn't know who the dog's owner was because it was just like a real trashy time, to be quite frank with you. And when I went home, I made an appointment at the doctor and I was like, look, I was floating in a river with dirty diapers and a dog, and the dog scratched me. And the doctor was like, we're going to give you a tetanus shot immediately because you haven't had one since childhood. I was like, great.
Big shot?
No, It was totally fine. You just feel a little bit sore. It's not a big shot at all. It's a normal size, but it's you get it in your non-dominant arm so that it doesn't interfere with your like day-to-day activity because you'll be like just a little sore like a day or two after.
Maybe it was just like a case of my parents trying to scare me, like, did you stop doing what you're doing?
Yeah,
100%. You know. Yeah. Now, fast forward once again, till as old as time. 4 years later, it's 1931. Another gold prospector named Phil Powers builds a cabin next to the Flat River. But once again, his cabin is found burned to the ground with his body inside. Apparently, the fire had started on top of the cabin roof, and Phil should have had time to get out of the cabin before it burned him up. But his body was found inside the cabin. The police, once again, didn't contribute his death to any of the other deaths in the area where the bodies had burned up. They said that it was a faulty stove pipe. But people wonder, was his cabin torched to the ground after he had already been murdered inside? People think that Phil's murder or Phil's death, whatever you believe, was actually another murder that was connected to all of the other murders that we've been talking about in Headless Valley.
So maybe we don't know this information, but it sounds like the only people that are having these weird, strange deaths are people that camp along the Flat River, right? So that to me makes me think, is there something in the river? I don't know. Like, is there something coming out of the river at night? Or is it just what you pointed out earlier? Is it just because everybody has to go through that river to get into this area? Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that a murderer would also be going through that area.
Or is it just that that is the place where you can find gold easily? You know, like there's literal nuggets if you just dig through some of the rocks on the shore. As opposed to having to like dig out a mine underground, you can just walk along this river and pan for gold and take home nuggets. So maybe it's that, or, you know, maybe it's just people know this is a good location to find gold, or maybe because it does have this reputation of being haunted, there's less people out there in general. So that's where you go. I don't know. I can only hazard a guess. Okay. Once again, warm up your singing voice. 5 years later, 1936. Tale as old as
Tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme. Da 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 da. Beauty and the Beast.
That's beautiful. Actually, when I was practicing this, I listened to the original song. It's like a fucking teacup singing it. It's like a cup singing it. Not the cup, but the kettle. And she's got this like really like nasally, like Cockney kind of like accent. She's like, tale that so this time. Like it's very in character. Yeah. Okay.
Look, all I know is that the attorneys that share a wall with this office must be so fucking annoyed every single time I break out in some sort of voice.
Right. They're just like, how are we sharing an office space with this, you know?
Well, sometimes they're like clearly having meetings. We're just in here like
they're like
screaming.
Section 2B AC, if you look right there, and then you're just like, Tale as old as time. Yeah.
Literally.
But then
Sorry,
they go home
guys.
singing Tale as Old as Time. And they're like, you know what? I wish I had a
They're
tale
like,
as
wow,
old as
I
time.
wish that I could sing like this to my clients while I'm getting ready to go to court and try to get them out of their jail for life case.
Yeah.
Maybe,
yeah.
hey, take a risk. If you're an attorney listening to this, take a risk. Sing to the judge. What's the worst that could happen? You know?
It's 1936. There's two more gold prospectors. One's name is Joe Mulholland. The other is Bill Eppier. They also enter Headless Valley to find gold, and wouldn't you know it, tale as old as time, they went missing. I rest my case. People never went out looking for them. They only found their burned down cabin, but the bodies of Joe Mulholland and Bill Eppier were never found. So the police couldn't even investigate because there was no bodies found.
Yeah, that's creepy. I mean, it is such a vast wilderness that I suppose if they just got off the beaten path, maybe their bodies would be difficult to find for anybody that was coming through to look for them. But it is strange that so many people are going missing in the exact same location, and the ones that are found seem to have been murdered in same or similar circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Once again, 9 years later, 1945, a man named Ernest Savard was found also decapitated, but he was in his sleeping bag alongside the river. Police, once again, said it was an accident. And I'm like, how can you say, like, how is it an accident to get decapitated? And they were like, oh, animals just probably ran away with the skull. But, like, what animals run away with a skull and they don't eat the rest of the body?
I'm just so confused too, because some of these bodies are they all found skeletonized, or do some of them get found before the flesh is all gone?
Some of them are found before the flesh is gone.
Okay, so then yeah, you're not going to have I mean, whatever. Correct me if I'm wrong, everyone, but I just don't think that you're going to have an animal come up and only focus on ripping the head off, especially while there's still flesh attached. I don't know, it just seems like it would be so difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, the only thing I know about animals is like what I see on National Geographic and like what I've experienced myself. And what I've experienced myself has never revolved around animals that can like eat you, right? So what I've seen on National
Right.
Geographic, the tigers and the lions and the predators or whatever, the majority of them just like hover over the kill, right? And they just like eat it right there. But some of them will, like a leopard or something, take the kill up into a tree and like save it for later or come back to it, you know.
That's
But
true.
but so maybe it could be that, but like why just the head?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Actually, the more we talk about this, the more I'm like, I don't think it was an animal, because usually if a body's been laying there for long enough, pieces of the body get scattered around.
mhm.
You know what I mean? And then you
Yeah.
can find the little bones all over the place, but it sounds like the only thing missing is the head.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that doesn't check out as an animal to me. In my expert opinion as a paranormal podcaster, I think it's a ghost.
1 year later, 1946, another man goes missing. His name was John Patterson, and once again, he's never found. But here's what's creepy. While the search party is out looking for John Patterson, there are some local native tribes people that come up and they see the search party and they warn them. These tribes people say that there were white figures walking along the river that evening, and the white figures are extremely dangerous. The tribes people said, do not let these white figures see you. And then the tribes people left the search party to their own devices. Now, the search party after that encounter is like, what the actual fuck? And they're terrified. All night they're in their camp. They're like, what do you mean, white figures? Like, are these the Headless Valley ghosts? Like, is this some ancient evil that's lurking? Are we going to get our heads chopped off tonight? Like, what is this the woman, you know, walking around on all fours, smiling like that or whatever? Like, what is this? They're all terrified. And they said that all night they could hear wailing and crying and screaming and like these weird guttural noises surrounding all areas of the camp. And they said it was like it was intentional, and it was whatever it was trying to scare them away. Now you might be thinking, well, it's probably just those same tribes people that came up and were like, oh, did you be careful of the white figures? And then they were just making all these noise. But they said that they had been there several nights in a row and hadn't heard any of the voices any of the other nights. And so they thought that it really was white figures down walking by the river, and they were all terrified that night. The leader of the search party, which by the way, you know, this is a search party, right? Like they're supposed to be somewhat professional. Like they can't just be like, we went out looking, but I got really scared because the stars were out that night and they made an ancient graph in the sky. You know, like you kind of have to have your shit together a little bit, right? He said to the press that the whole valley was sinister and evil.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, because when you tell me that story, my initial reaction is, well, maybe the the indigenous tribe that lives in this area is just saying, hey, beware the white man, because the white man is like evil, and they come and they like fuck up nature and like get all the gold and like fight each other and kill each other and like just ruin everything. But presumably the search party that is receiving this warning is also white,
Mm-hmm.
is my understanding. So then I'm like, okay, well then they're probably not talking about literal white skinned people. It sounds like something paranormal, like white creatures or ghosts, like you said, like
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Or weird walking on all fours naked women that have rictus smiles climbing up cliffs.
Right, right. So here's the other haunted thing is that a lot of this park now has been closed to the public, and the park says that the parts of the park that are closed because they're trying to protect that area of the park. They don't want a bunch of people going through there, trampling it, like hiking, making bonfires, doing whatever they're doing, mining. I don't know what people do in national parks these days. If you're not making a vlog or an Instagram, I could not understand what you're doing in a national park. You mean you're just there to get away from it all? Could never be us.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's some truth to that. But other people say, well, actually, no, they closed these parts of the park to protect the visitors from the evil that lurks within the park. And so since 1946, since John Patterson went missing, there hasn't been a whole lot of other missing persons cases. Some people think that's because parts of these parks have been closed down. And if they were to allow people to go into that park section, that people would continue to be getting eaten or going missing or getting haunted or decapitated or whatever it is. And so that's kind of where the story ends at today, is
Wow.
that, you have this park. There's tons of people who are getting their heads chopped off. They're getting their dwellings burned down. They're going missing. It seems nefarious. The police are not connecting any of the murders. They're kind of like acting like each of these deaths is like a mysterious incident, but it's all an accident on its own. And then if they are decapitated, some animals are just running away with the heads, and the police are not really like taking into account all of the folklore and evil rumors that are afoot here at all. And then you have other people who are like, well, no, maybe it's just miners. Maybe there's some other like greedy people in there who just don't want to share the valley. And so they're trying to send a sign to other people so they can keep all the gold themselves. Or maybe it's native tribes people who don't want to share the land. It could be any number of things. And then we also have this ancient tale of, these cryptids and white wolves and little people that come from the local folklore. It could be one of those too. So before we finish, I want to tell you about one more theory.
Tell me.
So there was this group of indigenous people called the Dene that live in this area, and the Dene have this spoken tale, this oral history of a different kind of person called the Naha, who had used to live there. And that's actually where the name comes from, the Nahanni Valley. It's like the Valley of the Naha. The Dene said that these people, the Naha, were like terrible warriors who were cannibalistic, and they were very fierce, right? And so there's this tale of these people having lived here. But the Dene said that one time the Naha people just randomly disappeared. They had all of their shelters, all of their stuff, and they just like basically vanished into thin air. And the folklore is that the Naha people might still be living in this valley.
Oh, interesting.
And perhaps they're the ones who are decapitating and burning down the structures that the miners are putting up. Or some people say maybe they were driven out because they're this like very fearsome people by the local cryptids, by the hauntings, because they were not trying to fuck with this scary valley.
Right, like if you're creating more ghosts, then maybe those go by murdering, right? Then maybe those ghosts are then seeking revenge and running you out of town. That's interesting. So that comes from the Dene people, you said?
Yes.
That story. Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, it seems like there's something mystical about this area. And we've talked before about areas that are not well traveled, that are difficult to get to, that aren't super inhabited. Like we talked about Antarctica recently. Like there's just something about this idea of the final frontier, whether it's outer space, whether it's Antarctica, whether it's a super isolated gorge in the northwestern territories of Canada. Something about unpopulated areas or almost unpopulated areas, just there's something mystical about it. Like, why is there nobody here? Or why is it not being built up? Or why has it never been built up over the years? Because I definitely am a huge believer in national parks and preserving nature. Of course, I think most people are. But back in the day, people didn't really care about that. It was just kind of wherever you wanted to set up a village or establish time to be in. It wasn't so much a formal preservation of nature is at least how we get villages in the first place, right? Like you get people, they come in, they build a town over time, it turns into a city, and now there's no nature left. So it is interesting that nobody ever tried to make it into something that would then later become a built up city. Does that make sense? Like nobody ever throughout the history ever came in and was like, let's put a road here. Let's build a house here. Let's build a school here. Let's build a religious center here. You know, it's just always been nature.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, because especially if there's a place that is like has a lot of minerals or seems to have a lot of resources, that does seem like it would be a good place to put a settlement, especially, you know, back in the early 1900s, because I was reading about this and I don't think it became a national park until 1975. And so before that, I guess you could have put an establishment in there. And I mean, there's money to be made. Like if you knew there were people going out here and mining, there are people going out there trapping, hunting or whatever, and you were an outdoorsman, you could set up like a little shop. You could set up, you know,
an outpost.
Yeah, an outpost to outfit and feed these people or supply these people who are mining or who are hunting, and you would make a killing. So why did no one do it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm getting at. You know, we learned about fur trappers in an episode we did that involved Oregon. And yeah, there would be these little outposts set up along the way where you could trade for wares or you could sell your furs or you know, whatever it may be. We've talked before about the westward expansion in the United States and how there would be these little shanty towns and then eventually they turn into bigger towns if the area had was like an ideal location for mining for gold or mining for minerals. So yeah, it's just strange to me that a place could have allegedly so much gold but not have any permanent structures set up by anyone ever.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I am a big believer in gold. I have been throughout this podcast. I especially like rose gold, but traditional gold, it does really excite me. Like the idea of just walking along a river and like picking up a handful of rocks and then there being some golden pebbles in there is extremely attractive to me. And so I could see myself being one of those people who's like, all right, brothers and sisters, let's go down to this haunted river and let's try our hand. Because, you know, is it worth risking your life to possibly be comfortable later in life? Because a lot of these people are probably not, you know, coming from generational wealth. They don't have anything to fall back on. This is like the best shot they have at being able to provide for themselves later in life. And so they are going to take this risk and go down there. So I could see it being very attractive and getting overrun if people didn't have someone murdering them there to prevent them from going. So I don't know. Maybe on this side of the podcast, I am advocating for the use of murderers in national parks. I'm not sure what to do with the information, you guys. I'm just here and I'm having a good time.
Yeah, the gold rush and the search for gold anywhere at any point in history is always very interesting. There's a lot of opportunities to rob and murder because the whole point is you're not going to be out there in the wilderness panning for gold unless you're looking for a come up. You know, it's not like this is a formal prospecting company that's sending employees out to look for gold or mine for ore. These are people that are probably not doing very well in life. And they're like, this is my come up. This is my chance. And as somebody that went through the California school system, look, we had to read this book called Johnny Tremaine. I will never forget it. Johnny Tremaine is like a silversmith or something. He's an apprentice. He's young. And one day he has an accident and the silver goes on his hand and it fuses shut. Like it burns and it's like he's crippled. That's the word they use in the book. And they're like, oh no, what's he going to do? Because it's the 1800s and how on earth is he going to find a way to survive? And, you know, if you were disabled back in the day, it was like a burden, considered a burden because there were no fallback plans. And so he's like, how am I going to make money? And one day he is digging in the dirt and pulls up a clod of dirt that's attached to this most giant golden nugget you've ever seen in your life. And so he cuts off pieces of the nugget to like stay at a hotel or if he needs to buy goods or trade for something. And then there's so many people after his gold. So yeah, I do think that life was hard, to bring it back to this story, and that if you were a treasure hunter, that's like a certain type of person that's going to be hunting for treasure. And people get gold crazy. That's why it was called gold fever. And they do murder. So yeah, maybe there's just some old wild prospector man that's been in these mountains for 50 years and he found the gold and he went crazy like Gollum and he's just guarding, you know, the gold area, and anyone that gets close to it, he's just killing.
I feel like it's kind of like people nowadays who like troll for lawsuits. That's like the old gold
ambulance chaser
prospector. Yes, that's like a gold prospector because they're like, you know, I have nothing to lose, right? Like nothing could be worse than the position that I'm in now. So let me like go try to make a come up, and if I end up, you know, ruining my credit or losing my trustworthiness or going to jail, it was still better than the position I was in before.
Right.
Had I not tried.
Right. Like, let me go. I don't care how I get this money. I don't care if I ruin someone else's life. I don't care if I murder someone who found it before me. You know, like my life cannot get worse. So let's make something happen. But then you slowly turn into someone that just never gets to even use your gold because you're hanging out in your cave system, just really fixated on not letting anyone else near you, you know?
Yeah.
Because you're worried someone's going to do to you. Yeah, because you're worried someone's going to do to you what you did to everyone else.
It's almost like it's a curse.
The curse of the headless Nahanni Valley. I definitely believe it. I would love to visit this place, but I will never get on a helicopter. You could not pay me to fly in a helicopter. So it's not going to happen. I'm not going to go. But if anyone has ever been to the Nahanni Valley, please send us an email, letsgethauntedpod@gmail.com. Tell me, was it scary? Was it spooky? Was it beautiful? Was it all of the above? Did you see a headless ghost wandering in the river, totally white on all fours, giving you a rictus smile with its head that's cradled in its hand?
Yeah, you guys, go on someone's Instagram today, preferably someone who's very attractive, and just comment like, looking real rictus today, you know, or something like that. Just like work it in there. I feel like we got to bring that word back.
Yeah, you like see a hot girl in posting a thirst trap and you're like, wow, girl, you got me feeling rictus tonight. Like,
oh, wow. There you go. If it's your first time to listen to this podcast, guys, thanks for being with us all the way till the end. And whether it is your first or your last time, hopefully not your last time, guys, hopefully you'll still be alive or you liked this episode, You can follow us on every social media platform, but preferably if you could subscribe to us on YouTube. We are really trying to make these videos happen, and it is just not going as fast as we would like. We really need to get that YouTube channel beefed up. Speaking of beefed up, we also need to get our Patreon beefed up.
know what
and if
you're
you
gonna
listen,
say.
yep, and if you listen to our most recent personal haunting on the Patreon, I talk about beefing up my vaginal walls. If that interests you, be sure to subscribe to our Patreon.
Oh, very well done. I really enjoyed the story. I love old-timey stories. I love prospecting stories. I love fur trapper stories. I love the great outdoors from a safe distance. So thank you very much for regaling us with this tale. Now, I'm going to do our sign-off.
Yes.
BRB, gotta go watch Beauty and the Beast. Bye.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ooh. These are going to be my new ad segues. Like, instead of hearing the little dreaming harp where it's like, hey guys, it's Nat, please buy this, or we are going to kill ourselves. It is going to be like, you know, in Hannah Montana, where it's like, between the scenes, she's like, yeah, ooh, like things like that. Okay, what if it was just me being like, yeah, ooh. I haven't pitched this idea to Aly yet. I feel like she's gonna say no, so I should just start doing it on my episodes. Let me know if you agree. Okay, let's get to the donor shout outs. Welcome to the closing credits for episode 218. This month, we would love to give a warm, heartfelt thank you to our Patreon donors who donated to us in the month of March 2025. Letters A through F. If you would like to become a donor and hear your name shouted out on a future episode, head over to patreon.com/LetsGetHaunted, where you will not only get a shout out, but you'll also get access to episode extras, mini-sodes, personal hauntings, live streams, and much, much more. Bro. This week, we would like to thank Sailor Doom, at Fredo, Abwali, Abigail A, Ace G, Adrian L, Amy T, Al F, Elena E, Alaya, Alberto O, Alicia L, Alessa M, Alessia, Alex JG, Alex Q, Alex T, Alex T, Alex W, Alexandria, Alexis H, Alexis S, Alice JL, Allegra B, Alan Cantation, Allie E, Alonzo, Allie B, Allie's a 10, agree, Allie CA, Alacia, Aliacia, girl, are you Australian? It's like Aliacia, Aliacia, A. You guys tell me how you think you're supposed to pronounce this. Alyaceae. Love it. It's a beautiful name. I'm going to get it tattooed on my ass. Amanda P, Amanda F, Amber Alert for 2069, Amelia Amresup, Andrew, Angela M, Andy, Archie F, Arden Strander, Artsy Starkey, Arwin S, Ashley D, Ashley J, Aubrey, Auburn R, Audrey W, Avery K, Bailey M, Bambi, Beatrice Beck, Bella Q, Benjamin S, Bethany W, Bianca T, Billy R, Boob for 2069, nice, Bookshelf managed Bradley M, Brenna L, Bree E, Brianna C, Bree B, Brielle, Brittany S, Broanal, Brooke, Bucket M. Bucket M. Is your name Bucket? Have I asked this before? Is your real name Bucket? It's Bucket with 2 T's. Once again, I'm going to get that tattooed on my ass. Caitlin B, Caitlin D, Cal E, Cameron VH, Camille's a cat, Captain L, Calico. I hope that's not your real name because I'm supposed to only say the first name with the second letter, like the first or the second letter, so we don't dox people. But I feel like your first name's probably not C-A-P-T, like Captain. Oh my God, imagine you name your kid like Captain, their first name, and so then everyone thinks that they're just like Captain and it's like constantly stolen valor. Okay, lock in. Karina, Caroline L, Cassidy M, Cassie L, Celeste L, Cetus CG, Chatty Whitey the Puddin' Patty, Chance the Reaper, Chanel C, Chaotic V, Charles C, Charlie I, Charlie M, Cheesy, Cherry D, Chicken, Chloe L, Christina T, Christopher M, Christopher O, Christy H, Coraline, Corruptive Jade, Courtney, Criley, Crystal C, Cursed Gravy, Cynthia, DLTC. Girl, what does DLTC mean? Is that like down live the... I don't know. Cynthia, what does it mean? What does DLTC mean, you guys? Is this like a new sandwich? Like BLT, but it's DLTC? Y'all tell me what that means. Cynthia V, Dan J, Dan the Blacksmith, Danny C, Danny Rose C, Dania SNC, Daniel G, Danny T, Desi S, DiGiorno Flocka, Dodie, Don't Be a Pill, Doralee N, Echo R, Ed B, El Duderino, E Little 711, Elizabeth P, Elowen B, Emiko N, Emily B, Emily B, Emily H, Emily O, Emily R, Emily W, Emily C, Emma D, M Storm, Erica M, Erica A, Faith B, Felicia G, Frank D, Fred H, Freddie F, and Fresh Zombie. Thank you guys so much for being our patrons. Life is worth living with you guys. Oh yeah. And it's nice to have a community where people just support one another. I could only wish that real life would be that way. And being in the simulation with you all has been one of the greatest treasures of my life. Ooh, oh yeah. And I am just I'm stoked on life right now. Do you guys see that? Do you see that a weight has been lifted off of my shoulders recently? Like, I am just in a good mood, and it's kind of rare. You're welcome, and thank you. Much love, roses, kisses, and congratulations to everyone for getting through whatever this was that I just recorded. I'm not going to edit this because I'm on a time crunch. Yeah, bro. And wishing blesses to you and all of your family. Salat Makam. That is not... Does that... Okay, forget it. And moi. Love you guys. Love you, bitch. Bye.